So I normally don't do discussion videos that are scripted like this, but something's been annoying me for the better part of a decade now, and I felt it was finally time for me to get it out of my system and yap about it for a little bit. Today I want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Players exaggerating about a deck's quality. Whoa. Next you're going to tell me I'm going to complain about Magic players gatekeeping other players that like products that they don't. In all seriousness, let's talk about Red Eyes. Red Eyes Black Dragon is a level 7 Dark Dragon normal monster with 2400 attack and 2000 defense. Even from day 1, this card's kind of underwhelming. Summon Skull has more attack and takes less tributes, Dark Magician has more attack and takes the same tributes, and you also had stuff like Blue Eyes White Dragon and Trihorn Dragon as even better cards if you wanted them to be dragons or had access to those. Red Eyes has gotten waves of support throughout the years, like most archetypes have, that have varied from good cards, bad cards, and kind of underwhelming cards, and unlike Dark Magician or Blue Eyes, Red Eyes hasn't really had a lot of competitive success. Red Eyes cards do show up at times, like Red Eyes Fusion and Dragoon when those were staples, and stuff like Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon appears all the time in Dragon decks. You also had stuff like Red Eyes Wyvern appearing in Disaster Dragon in Edison format. But for the most part, a Red Eyes deck hasn't really had much success in the competitive sense. But why? If you ask anybody what Red Eyes' problem is, you're going to get the same answer. It's trying to do too many things, or they keep giving them new directions every wave of support, and this is what's annoying me so much that I felt the need to make this video, and to remake it, because my first take of this, I was genuinely getting annoyed. I mean, look at it. It has rituals, and fusions, and synchros, and Xyz, and links. It does burn damage, and Geminis, and equips, and zombies, and metalmorph, and they're just pulling it in too many different directions. I think we should take a deeper look into this. They have rituals, but those are just anime adaptations and not a new direction that they wanted you to take the archetype in. Lord of the Red isn't even a Red Eyes card, nor does it mention Red Eyes in any way in its effects. It is nothing more than an anime adaptation. As for Paladin, that's just something they give Dragon anime decks. Galaxy has one, that doesn't make it a ritual deck. Armed Dragon has one, that's not a ritual deck. Firewall has one, Zombie World has one, no, that one's not a ritual. Either way, that doesn't automatically make it a ritual deck. None of these decks are ritual decks just because they have a ritual or two. Also, it doesn't have synchros. These are not Red Eyes cards. They have Red Eyes in the name, but they're clearly Zombie World support. They don't want you to put these in your Red Eyes deck. They're just a reference to the original Zombie World structure deck, which had Red Eyes as a cover card. These are just a reference, the same as the Blue Eyes Millennium card. That's not a Blue Eyes card mechanically, and no one considers it one, but it is one. It's just an unrelated card that fits in the archetype solely because of the name. I wish they called these Dead Eyes or Undead Eyes to make this clearer, but It has an Xyz, but this one is thematic to the deck, it works with the goal and playstyle of the deck, and it's a one-off to pair up with the Dark Magician Xyz monsters that came out around the same time of 2015-2016. That's it. Dark Magician got an Xyz monster too, just like I said, but no one complains that that deck does too much, and I've never seen anyone call Dark Magician an Xyz deck. It's got Metalmorph stuff, but that's a weird case where they do work together, I guess, but it's still clearly a separate archetype. Two of the cards are Red Eyes cards, but it's clearly just a different deck. I honestly don't think they intend for you to play this as a Red Eyes deck, and again, just as an anime reference. They can work together, but I kind of see it how Magician Girls are related to Dark Magician, a separate archetype that could work with the original, but is still a separate thing. You could also argue that even if you consider them the same deck, they focus on equips and traps, which is an aspect of the Red Eyes actual game plan. They also care about Geminis. Not really. I mean, none of the cards in the deck even reference Geminis. These cards are Gemini monsters, but that's not a theme to the deck. They don't want you to put in Supervise or whatever. They are there specifically to work with the normal monster support while in the graveyard or on the field, without forcing you to run original Summon Skull and original Meteor Dragon. Konami doesn't want you to Gemini summon these. They want you to use them with the normal monster support, and maybe Gemini summon them if you're in a position where you can. It's not an aspect of the deck. I would not consider Red Eyes a Gemini deck. Like, not at all. The real issue is, even if they did all of these things, you could say the same about a lot of decks. TDD does way too many things. Fusions, pendulums, synchros, links, Xyz. They care about losing life points, gaining life points, beating down with giant monsters, anti-pendulum stuff, graveyard stuff, pendulum summoning. They do way too many things at once. Blue Eyes does way too many things. Fusions, synchros, links, Xyz. They care about light tuners and beatdown and massive piercing damage and graveyard stuff and destroying cards. It does too much. You don't hear that kind of thing. Why? Because it's a ridiculous claim. They do all these things, but they do it in a way that makes them work together or allow for multiple different builds. That is not the reason that Red Eyes is a bad deck. Wow, Jared, you must fucking love this deck since you're sucking its dick all the time in this video. No, not really. Red Eyes isn't a favorite deck of mine or whatever. It's fine. I think its aesthetic is cool and it's cool enough, but there's other Dark Dragon decks I prefer, even anime ones. I had fun with Predaplant Red Eyes, but that was more so because of the Predaplants and not the Red Eyes. I'm not even a huge fan of Red Eyes, they're fine. Red Eyes sucks. I don't think anyone can deny that. It's not a good deck, and I'm not denying it. I'd struggle to call it even that good, but it's not because it's doing too much. Red Eyes is an archetype of Dark Dragon and Fiend monsters, and they solely focus on three aspects. They want to make big fusions, they want to buff them with equips, and they want to use burn damage to OTK and FTK. They want you to make a 3,000 plus attack fuckhead, equip it with shit, then punch your opponent's face as hard as possible and finish them off with big burn damage. They also have a slight normal monster sub-theme, which again is why the Geminis exist, but it's mostly just that. You want to OTK with big guys and do burn damage. The reason they suck is because they can't do that unless you have a god hand, and since they don't really do anything else, that's not great. They just don't get to the FTK or OTK option enough for them to be consistently good. The issue with that is they can't make it good. Imagine if they kept Red Eye's current playstyle and made it just consistently FTK your opponent on the first turn with no real effective way to stop them. It'd be infuriating and poorly designed. You could argue that there are plenty of FTK and OTK decks that work, like Gimmick Puppet for example, but the difference is that Red Eyes is one of the most iconic decks in the game, and I don't know if they'd want an iconic deck like that to just be associated with an unfun FTK that nobody likes going against, you know? You would just have to change what Red Eyes does or find a way to enhance it in a way that isn't gross but still keeps the deck's current identity. So how would I make Red Eyes good while still keep not adding a new theme? Well, first, I'd make a card that works with Red Eyes Soul. This card is a pretty good turn 0 card, but the issue is that it has no good targets to summon. I would personally start by giving them a Red Eyes monster that lets you fusion or Xyz summon a quick effect speed, maybe when it's summoned, so you can make a Flare Metal or one of their fusions on your opponent's turn on turn 0. Second, I'd keep their OTK viability by giving them some more fusions with huge attack stats. Maybe one that can equip itself with any trap that equips, so you can mix them with Flame Swordsman or Metal Morph stuff more than it currently already does. Just another finisher with huge attack basically, that's better than the one that we have. Lastly, I would give them a more defensive fusion option. It doesn't have to be a boring Omni Negate, especially since it would just make Red Eyes Soul a one-card combo with the theoretical card I mentioned earlier, the Quick Fuses, and any deck could use it, but maybe another Tax Dragon or something with protection or something that pops multiple cards instead of negating them. I'd also give them, obviously, a decent starter. Red Eyes Soul gives them a turn 0 play when going second, but I feel even just a basic Stratos-like Searcher would be decent at being excuse the pun, starter for the deck. You can make the deck still have its identity and give it new support. Red Eyes is a bad deck, like I've said multiple times in this video, but I think exaggerating the issue at being that they do too much and are unsalvageable without a full-on reset is just wrong to me. You'd only need a handful of cards to make Red Eyes decent, while keeping its identity of burn damage and equips the fusions, and I think just shoving in people's face lies like the Zombie World Synchros count as Red Eyes cards and Konami wants you to include them, it just makes the deck's problem seem incorrect when it has a more focused issue. Like, I don't know. I don't even like Red Eyes, like I said before. I just think that lying about what its issues are doesn't help at all. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm sorry if this is just a me thing where like I'm the only person that cares about this, but I keep seeing, I don't even like Red Eyes, but I keep seeing people like, Red Eyes sucks. Did you know that they also want you to do Zombie World Synchro stuff with? It's like, no, they don't. They don't want you to do that. It just bugs me every time I see that post because you could fix Red Eyes easily, but whatever. I usually don't do videos like this, but I kind of want to do more next year because there's a few things that I want to yap about for 10 to 15 minutes or whatever in a scripted sense. I tried to do this video as a G Rambles where it's unscripted, but it just didn't work out. And then like I mentioned earlier in the video, I did record this before, but it was genuinely angry and I was genuinely like, I felt like a dick or whatever. So I re-recorded it and kept my cool more or whatever. I have social medias in the description. There's a Blue Sky in there. That's the only other social media I have. And there's also a Let's Play channel in the description if you care about that or want to see that. I plan on doing another Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's Play at some time later this year. But so look out for that if you want to. I also have a Ko-fi and a throne and stuff if you want to buy stuff or send a present my way. But that's all I really wanted to say. I'll see you guys in the next video.